Let's talk about a movie that I was confused about when I first saw it. But then I liked it when I saw it again. And I fell in love with it when I saw it for the third time. It's the Blackcoat's daughter. Hello everyone, I'm Jay Mere and welcome back to a new movie review. And this time I'm gonna do a little bit different. Normally when I do a review, it's always about a recent movie. A movie that recently was released in theaters, that I watched and I immediately give my first initial thoughts on that movie. That's how I usually do a review. But for this time I want to do something different. I want to talk about an older movie, a movie that was released some years ago. And therefore I can talk about it more in detail, more in depth. And this is something that I want to do once every month. Talk about an older movie that I think is underrated, overlooked, underappreciated, or just misunderstood. And I want to give my thoughts on that movie, why I think it's a good movie or even a great movie. And to kick off this new category of videos of mine, I want to talk about the movie The Blackcoat's Daughter, or also known as February, because I really think that this movie is still underrated. This is a movie from 2015. It's the year that it's usually linked with this movie, but I think it just had a avant-premiere in that year at some kind of film festival, I suppose. But it was really widely released in the year 2017. But not in theaters, at least not in my country. Maybe in some countries to limited release to some selected theaters. But in my country it was a movie that was released VOD, video on demand, or on DVD. And it came on my VOD, but I was not really interested in this movie because it's a demonic possession movie. And it is my least favorite subgenre of horror. But I know my mother saw it in 2017. She really wanted to see this movie. But after she watched it, she was not really a fan of the film. She was a bit confused about it. She did not really get the movie. Anyhow, months after that, I really was in an Emma Roberts phase. I was really becoming a fan of Emma Roberts. I want to see all of her shows and films. By the way, this is also Emma Roberts' her birthday, so it's also the reason why I chose this video to start with the underrated movie of the month. So it's also to celebrate her birthday. But back to my story. I was in the Emma Roberts phase, so she's in this movie, so I watched it. And I did not really get the movie. It was a bit confusing, but I always thought it was a good movie. But then years later, I rewatched the movie and I really get the movie. And it is a movie that you really have to watch multiple times, at least two, to really get the movie. Because some people watch it for the first time and then they go and get it and they do not really like the movie and then they forgot about the movie. But they are missing actually a fantastic horror movie, because this is one of my favorite horror movies. If you watched my video, my top 20 favorite horror movies, this is definitely on that list. I love this movie. So what's the movie about? The movie is actually about three girls, young girls. We have Catherine, we have Rose, and we have Joanne. And it's mostly taking part on this boarding school for mostly girls, I believe. And we are in February, and in February there is a break. So all the students go back to their family at home. Except for two girls. Two girls stay behind in this school, and that's Catherine, which is a very young student. Rose even calls her a first year. And then we have Rose, and Rose also stays behind, and she's an older student. And both the parents of these young girls, they didn't arrive. Rose gave an excuse because she's actually pregnant and she wants to clear out things with her boyfriend. And Rose, she's just left behind because her parents forgot about her. And that's the story. Well, the story focuses on those two girls, and while everyone is away, there is this evil force present in the school, and those girls have to deal with this evil force. Meanwhile, we have an older girl, Joanne, who is driving to the school, and her storyline is a bit a mystery throughout the movie. But that's the movie. And this movie is directed by Osgood Perkins, or Os Perkins, and that's a relative of the Perkins who plays Norman Bates from Psycho. Little fun fact. And the girls are played by Kieran Shipka, Lucy Boynton, and Emma Roberts. And I have to say, this movie is fantastically directed. Os Perkins did a perfect job. I believe this is his first movie he did, and he really succeeds in creating this atmosphere. Because I do not really see this as a scary movie, but the way the atmosphere is created, it has a certain creepiness in this movie, and I really admire that. So, and every shot that he did in this movie is perfection. It's a really beautiful movie to look at. And also our three main actresses, they all play a fantastic job. Every character is important. Catherine is important, Rose is important, Joanne is important. Even if you watch it for the first time, like I did not really care for the character of Rose. But I have seen it a couple of times now, and Rose is actually also a very interesting and important character in this story. Even though you don't really think that initially when you first watch it. The story is more focusing on Catherine and Joanne. And the movie is structured in two storylines that are merged in together, and that is a bit of the confusing part. That is where the confusion starts, because when you first watch the movie, it's not always clear how the two stories are connected with each other. You get all the information, but it is very subtle. The director is very carefully in what he shares with the audience at what point. And when you first watch this movie, you don't not really see that or get it, but after multiple times you really understand everything what this director is doing. And I just love this movie. And I'm not a big fan of demonic possession movies. In the second part of this video, where I'm gonna talk about details and spoilers, I'm gonna explain why I love this movie as my favorite demonic possession movie. Why this works as a demonic possession movie. And the movie gets violent at certain points. There is not a lot of violence in this movie, but when the violence hits, it hits hard. He really went for it, the director. The only negative I really have about this movie is the montage, the way the movie is edited. It's a bit confusing, especially when you first watch the movie. It's a really confusing editing at some points. Also a bit too fast at moments. And that is really strange, because this movie is a bit slow. But after watching it a couple of times, it gets less slow. So these are a bit my thoughts on the movie February, the Blackcoat Starter. So in this next segment of the video, I'm gonna talk about details. So here will be spoilers. So if you haven't watched this movie, please do not continue my video. First watch the movie and then come back and hear me out on how I read this movie. So, I really believe there is a beauty in rewatching this movie. Like I said many times now, I was confused. I did not really get it the first time, like most people will when they watch this movie. And that has mostly to do with the fact that this movie has two storylines. We have the storyline taking place in the boarding school, and then we have the storyline focusing on Joanne. And for the most part of the movie, it's not really clear how the storyline of Joanne fits in the storyline of Catherine and Rose. And at a certain point in the movie, we already understand that Joanne, her storyline, is taking place many years after Catherine and Rose, her story. So that's already confusing from how does this fit in the story? And this is the beauty. Only at the end you really understand that these are two different times and there's about one character. Catherine and Joanne are the same character. And that twist was just beautiful. It changes the whole way I looked at this movie, because the first time I watched the film, I was not really clear what the point of this movie was or what was going on. But as soon as I knew at the end of the film that this was the same character, it changes everything. And then when I rewatched the movie, I really saw this as a beautiful movie. It was a masterful directed and written movie, and I love this movie for it. And it's a demonic possession movie, and I'm gonna explain the story of this one character with demonic possession theme, and also the theme of loneliness, because our director Perkins really focuses on loneliness and how this character deals with loneliness. So our character is Catherine. Catherine is the main focus of the film, and the younger version is played by Kiernan Shipka, who does an excellent job. Every time I rewatch this movie, I am stunned by how good she is in this movie. And when we first meet Catherine, everyone is leaving the school. It's the last day of school before the break, and it's clear that this young woman is very struggled, and we don't really see her with many other friends or people she talks about. It's very clear that this woman is all alone. She has no one, and she feels very lonely. We also know at a certain point that Rose tells her a story about a demon or a devil living in the school, and that's why this school is not good. But Catherine already knows of that, because the demon already approaches Catherine, because this demon wants someone who feels struggles, who feels alone, and Catherine is an easy target for them. And Catherine, because she feels alone, she accepts this demon in her. She let her being possessed, and that's very interesting for a demonic possession movie. We never really get the perspective of the one that is possessed. Maybe some people will get possessed by a demon once that people want that connection with the devil, with the demon, to not be alone in Catherine her case, and that's beautiful. And throughout the movie, Catherine gets more and more possessed, and she is liking it. She is finally not alone anymore, and she lets this demon in her. But the demon wants something in return, and Catherine has to kill everyone in the school that is left behind, and that's Rose and two sisters. And then she gets arrested, and she goes to this hospital, psychiatric institution, and there she is being exorcised. And that's also very interesting, because most demonic possession movie or exorcism movies, they take a lot of time to exorcise the devil, the demon, while she is laying in bed. And here it happened very quickly, and I really like that. And then Joanne, her story actually starts from this point, and that's also very interesting. And we always get the impression, because it's not chronologically told, that Joanne was in a hospital and left. But now, knowing all this, we really know she escaped the hospital. She killed someone and took her identity, and that identity is Joanne. And then she meets the parents of what was Rose, her parents, and Rose, her parents were going back to the place where her daughter was murdered, because it's so many years later. And Joanne sees this as a sign. a sign that maybe this demon still wants her, because Joanne is also feeling really struggle, really alone. Her time in the hospital that was not really good for her. So she kills the parents, but when she was back at the school, she's still all alone. This demon has left her, and that's a beautiful ending. She started all alone, and she stays all alone, and she kills for nothing. That's a really beautiful ending, and that's why I love this story. It's so layered, it's so beautiful shot, so great acted by these young women, and the score is fantastic. So this is why this is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and I love this movie. And I hope I um, uh, explained it well why I think this is a great movie. So this is my first video of underrated movie of the month. I hope you liked it. I hope you will give February the Blackcoat Starler a rewatch, and maybe you will like it more as well. And till the next time.